Hello. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm reminded of a session that was, there was a festival called the Ocean Film Festival, which used to run in Delhi. It was a very special festival because it was only Afro Asian work that would be shown. There was no Caucasian work. And I remember once when I went for that festival, the great screenplay writer, Paul Schrader. You know who's Paul Schrader? Paul Schrader is the guy who wrote Taxi Driver, one of Scorsese's first films. So Schrader was giving a master class in Siri Fort, which is huge, about 5 times the size. And he came to the stage and he looked at the audience and then he put on his glasses and then he looked again to the audience and he said, ah, either I can look at you or I can see my notes. I think I'll look at my notes. Okay. So, yeah, well, why are we here today? We're here today to just get a glimpse of the power of storytelling. And I'd like to start by trying to look at some of the origin myths of storytelling. And preparing for this session here today, sadly, I'm talking to the seats also, but I'm glad that you guys came. Uh, I came across some very interesting stuff. And one of the most famous origin myths uh, about storytelling comes from Greece and is associated with the Greek god Hermes, who, the myth is called Hermes and the Lyre. The lyre, as you know, or if not, that musical instrument that you see is called a lyre. Okay. And Hermes is often considered as the god of communication. And the myth goes like this: Hermes invents the lyre while he was still in his cradle. And he is said to have fashioned the lyre from a tortoise shell and the uh, guts of the sheep, which he used as the strings, while his mother, Maya, was sleeping. And when he played the lyre for the first time, the notes were so beautiful that Apollo, the god of music, came and on hearing it got so enchanted by it that he negotiated with Hermes and exchanged the lyre for one of his very prized possessions. Apollo's prized possession was the staff, the stick. Okay. And it goes on that Hermes actually becomes a I mean, the lyre itself becomes a symbol of artistic expression. And Hermes, the god of communication. And the myth symbolizes the importance of storytelling and the arts as a gift to humanity. It highlights that story has the power to enchant and inspire. And it connects storytelling to a creative divinity and invention. My second story, I went across the Atlantic. From Greece, I went to the States. And this is uh, an indigenous Native American tribe called the Navajo. I think they are situated in the southwest of the United States. And they have a creative myth, a creation myth, sorry, which they call the emergent story, And in this complex and multifaceted narrative that has been passed down through generations, because the, the, they are a culture which follows an oral tradition. And through that, the myth not only encompasses the idea of storytelling, but it also reflects on the importance of narrative and the oral tradition in the Navajo culture. And according to this emergent story, the Navajo people were originally living underground, you know, and they, that underground space was a very dark and precarious space. And it was only when the people discovered the sacred mountains, which they used to call the Sisadini, or what is now known as the San Juan Mountains, it is only when they discovered that, and with the guidance of their deities, that they found a way to emerge from that darkness into the earth. And during that journey, storytelling and song was a powerful tool to pass on this knowledge, to preserve cultural values, to connect with the spiritual world. And now it's not about just the Navajo tribe. This is the role of storytelling for us, even in our contemporary lives. Okay? And it this particular myth highlights the crucial role of storytelling and the oral tradition and the ceremonial songs to connect the people to the land. So we have to understand that storytelling is not just mere entertainment. It is that also, but it is also a very sacred and essential part of identity and existence. And now I'd like to come to something much closer to us. I'm sure some of you might have even read this great 13th century Sufi poet, Jalaluddin Rumi. And Rumi talks in his poem about the guest house. He talks about, let's read the poem. It's a lovely poem. This human being is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if there are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, what is, at one level, what is this poem about? What do you feel? Why do I bring this poem into the space? The guest house is not just the physical guest house. It is not just denotating the guest house, but it is a metaphor for the mind or the self. Okay? And our minds are like guest houses that host a constant stream of thoughts and emotions and experiences. So we're getting all these guests as emotions and experiences, and they're entering the guest house of our mind. And they come and go, and you should welcome them, as the poem suggests, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Now, storytelling can be viewed as a tool that helps us understand and make sense of these guests, meaning of our emotions and experiences. Stories allow us to process and experience our thoughts and feelings, creating a narrative that brings order and meaning to the guests in our minds. By accepting and telling stories about our guests, we can learn about them and grow emotionally, much like Rumi's invitation, which said, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them. So, this poem illustrates that storytelling is a way to embrace the complex, ever changing nature of human experience and to find understanding, meaning, and growth in the stories that we tell about our lives. So, with that, let us move into the next session of our discussion, where Shiva and me are going to have a small chat, and he has some questions lined up for me. So let's see where that takes us. Could we get one more mic?
Yeah, we have one. Maybe probably we can share this. Thank you, Mike. That was a wonderful insight and very interesting. Frankly speaking, I got like a lot of actual facts on how it all started. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Hello? Yeah.
yeah. I think it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. So, Mike, what is the fundamental importance of storytelling in human communication and understanding?
So, we have a responsibility. Any artist has a responsibility. I'm not saying that we need to hold a flag and do the dharna in front of collectorate's office. But we have been privileged to be artists. We have been privileged to be able to talk about the community. You know, the great Senegalese filmmaker, Sembine Ousmane, who's considered as the father of African cinema. His last film was called Mulada, which was shot in Burkina Faso and was around the whole theme of female circumcision, which is a very strange practice in the northern part of Africa and creates a lot of problems for women. And he says in that last interview before or just after he made Mulada, he said, see, when we elect a politician, do we elect him for a particular period of time, maybe 3 years or 5 years. After that, or 10, but even if it's 10, still after 5 years, you have to re-elect him. The mandate is only for 5. Yeah. So he says, even a politician has to do that. But you as an artist have been elected for life by the community. And therefore, automatically that means that you're responsible for it. So your stories are telling me about the future that our communities dream about. It's about critiquing what we have gone through. And it is about talking about the present or criticizing the present or reflecting on the present. So that's the responsibility I feel.
Wonderful, Mike. Thank you. So let's go to the next one. Uh, how has storytelling evolved over time, and what are the key elements of that make a compelling story?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, see, there is a dominance of certain types of narrative patterns which are popular or which are used. And the most common is the narrative fiction, which comes from causality, means it comes from cause and effect. This happens because this happened, that happens because that happens, that happens. And the way of storytelling is coming from that. But that has now changed, and there are different ways in which you can construct a narrative. But predominantly, a huge percentage of cinema, in whatever form, as animation or even as a game, follow a certain causality, whereas there are other ways of construction which I think we need to explore. And because the idea, I mean, there could be a film, if I say a non-fiction film, a documentary film, everybody will say, oh, this is just factual or informative. But if you really look, there are beautiful, very lyrical documentary films, the work of Joris Ivans, the work of Sukadev, the work of Manikal. They're all the documentary fiction. I mean, they're not documentary fiction, they're documentary, but they're not informative or factual. They're very evocative and lyrical. So we should try to explore a spectrum of narrative, of ways of making, and not just stick to one narrow thing, which is a very safe way to go because it creates a certain expectation, and it thrives on expectation. But this illusionist way of taking you into the screen for 3 hours, dancing with Madhuri Dixit, and then coming back and sitting in your chair and say, oh, everything's over, is one way of making. I mean, each one should choose the way they want to make, but we need to also remember that this is just a two-dimensional screen. It is not a life, and you need to sit in your chairs. You can't get wallowed into this space and get mesmerized and come back. And why? To escape from the world that you live in? Or should art be a space where you confront the world that you live in and try to make meaning rather than escape? And therefore, when you confront it, you will find your own meaning and you will be able to live a better life.
Totally, makes sense. I can totally connect to this. Probably, I would change my perspective after this conversation. Thank you, Michael. So let's jump on to the next one.
Let's just say that there is no right and wrong.
Oh yeah, of course. But
And you need to choose what Shiva wants.
of course, but I'm someone who would be very open to
Exploring,
improvise.
yeah.
And I always tell myself at this point of time, this is what I know, this is my assumption, or this is my understanding, this is what I believe.
Yeah.
But I'm open to understand a better perspective and improvise, and I'm not afraid of, or I'm very comfortable to improvise
To push, yeah.
and change my perspective.
And that's huge because today, with all the information sitting in our phones, we think that we know, but know what? At what level do you know? You can know at this level or you can know at that level, you know? So, knowing at a superficial level, see, any artist cannot stop searching. Once you stop searching, then you're dead.
Totally. We only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. So, can you provide some examples of traditional storytelling methods and how have they transformed in the new digital age, and what is the way forward?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the realm of animation, it goes back to the cave paintings. It goes back to, I think even in Andhra you have Tollu Bommalata, no? The Tollu Bommala. Yeah, I pronounced it wrong. I think when I pronounce it, it becomes a swear word. But anyway. Okay. We have in Kerala Pavakathakali. There are many traditions of puppetry, like coming from shadow puppetry. These are all precursors of cinema. And I think we have come to realize slowly that unless we can root ourselves in the physical, tactile world of the traditional arts, whether it is sculpture, art, painting, or, unless we root ourselves there, when we go into the digital space, we don't have any baseline. So if you don't understand it in its physicality and you go straight into this digital space, you can get lost and you won't know where to stand, how to stand. So it's always good to start from that, to start from the traditional forms. If you are saying sculpture, sculpture is related to modeling. If you say anything, if you say painting, it is related to texturing. And if you have a sense of that, that is the whole crisis today in the industry. That people know technically the software. That's all they know. They know which fader to push, but they don't know why they're pushing the fader. Because them making that character or texturing that landscape is not in any way related to the story that they're trying to tell, but rather to a job or number of minutes that you need to finish. But we need to reconnect to story. That is why storytelling is so important. We need to reconnect to story for us to have meaning for the work that we do. Because finally, the character is a narrative device. It is not a character that is standing in isolation. It is related to a plot line, it is related to emotion, it is related to mood, it is related to story. Story is, everything is subservient to story. And when I say story, I don't mean story in a traditional narrative sense. It can be a very abstract film, what we just talked about earlier. Yeah. But we really need to go back to that, I feel.
Yeah, totally. And it has a very larger cause, like you rightly mentioned in the beginning. It doesn't matter someone is a modeling artist or a rigging artist or a texturing artist. You don't need to just to be an animator who perform things. Even a lighting artist. Everybody should really keep in mind that they all are part of this mission, which is storytelling in their own way.
It's
Totally.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I don't even come from an animation background. I come more from a live action background, and I thought that film was fragmented, but animation is like crazy. VFX is even crazier. I mean, both are as crazy, but I never knew that the tail is being made here and the foot is being made there and the eyes is being made. Sometimes it's in 3 different continents. Yeah. So then, if that is to happen, that interconnectedness and that understanding of the whole workflow and the pipeline needs to be understood.
Totally, Mike. So I think we are getting close to the end. So
Okay.
I would like to discuss or have conversation on one more question. Then we can jump into question and answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some well-known creative works that have pushed the boundaries of storytelling, challenging conventional narrative structures?
Ah, I mean, it starts from the genesis of cinema. It starts from Mellis. George Mellis was actually a magician, and his Trip to the Moon is the most experimental film that I've seen. Yeah, and he, so it starts from there. There have been many attempts. I would say Rashomon is a very important film. Last year at Marienbad by Alain René is a very, I mean, he totally strips the idea of the narrative uh, because he has an unreliable narrator, so you don't know who to believe. And finally, you have to stop trying to make sense to be able to even engage with the film. And so he has taken that experiment. Of course, in the modern, further on, Christopher Nolan's Memento, uh, Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. Uh, so there are many attempts to look at narrative. See, why are we trying to look at narrative differently? We are looking at, after we have had a century which has thrown up a Freud and a Heidegger and an Einstein, we cannot look at the world the way we looked. The idea of certainty itself has vanished. The vanishing point now does not go to that golden point. The vanishing point actually has been reversed and it is coming back to the viewer. If that is the case, then the way we tell our stories should also reflect this, the reality that we live in. We cannot be telling stories that were told in the way of a particular time in our historical development. We need to find new forms. It's not only about the content, it's also about new forms. Yeah. And in that, I think, Shiva, I'd like to share something about the school that we have started an initiative.
Absolutely. You would
Can
like
I
to play
share
the
some?
video and
Yeah.
give them a glimpse? then we can take a
yeah.
questions.
So this is a. I can go back to the other mic. I'll just keep it brief, but this is a small initiative that we have started. Uh, you'll know who we mean by we as I go through this presentation. Yeah. So we call ourselves the Datsy School for Storytellers. And as I said earlier, I come from a live action space. At first, when I came into this space, I was trying to figure out, like, why do these guys want me here? I know -2 about animation and thing. But slowly, I came to understand from Venki, who's here also with me today, and Viren and Sanji, I came to understand that the crisis is at the level of storytelling. The crisis is totally at the level of storytelling. The technology is changing huge. Uh, a lot of mundane work has been taken out with automation or with AI. It'll soon go out. But who will teach those machines? And conceptually, yesterday I think your session was on IP creation. If we are to move to an IP creation space, if we are to move to creating our own content, then we need to build a workforce now also in the pre production space. As you all know, because we're a service oriented industry, the bulk of our workforce is there. There are very few people in that other space of conceptualization and storyboarding and concept art and script writing. Huge gap. So we need to go there. So the long-term vision of the school is to do that. But at the moment, actually, we're starting with a few upskilling programs, which are gaps that we feel that come. And we have a campus in Trivandrum. It's situated in a beautiful 75-acre park, which is called the Kinfra Film and Video Park in Karakotam, on the outskirts of Trivandrum. It was the outskirts. Now the city has grown. And it's a beautiful space. It's very pastoral. It's there's the horizon can be seen, and automatically when you can see the horizon, the mind also expands that way. Yeah, and this is a partnership between Zebu Animation Studios, who are headed by three. I call them the Holy Trinity, and that's Venki, and Venki is here right in front. He was speaking here yesterday, and the person at the bottom on the left side is Sanjay Gupta, who's based out of Los Angeles and heads another organization there also called Pure Imagination. And in the center is Viren Patel, who's been instrumental in setting up many studios. I think Shiva also started out long time back at Paprikas and then Eccentrics and then Technicolor. They're the guys who bought Rockstar here and many other DreamWorks also, and Nickelodeon, and I mean they've done a lot. And this school is actually something that they dreamt of nearly 20 years back, and now it's come to reality. But it is not for Zebu. This school is for the industry. I like to call ourselves studio agnostic pro industry. What we're doing there is not for Zebu, it is to change the culture of the industry at a larger level. If we all grow together, I think we'll be in a better place. And our partner is ASAP, which is the Additional Skill Acquisition Program of the Government of Kerala. And we also have some industry partners, 88 Pictures, Eccentrics, Film CGI, and Colorpix from Hyderabad. They're from here.
Yeah, local boys.
And ASAP also is a government body that has, we have partnered with. We're actually situated in their what's called their community skill park. And just recently, we became an Autodesk authorized training center. Now, let me just give you a glimpse of the campus. think there's no sound. Sorry? No, there's no sound. Sure. Maybe my. Do you think my setting is not there? No, it's connected to headphone. One minute, let me see. No, the visual is coming. Just play now. Oh, I should play.
Just one second. Is it playing in a video player?
Oh no, sorry, I've gone to the next thing. Let me try again. It's playing. It's okay. Yeah, that's just to give you a feel. I just like to very quickly go through what drives us at DATSI and what are our larger values. And the first is community. We do not see this as an institution. We see this as a community building exercise. And just recently, actually, we were traveling across Kerala, right down from Trivandrum to near Talsheri and near Mahe. And the type of people we met, the cross section of people that we met, really reasserted the fact that we need to look at this in terms of building a community, both physically and virtually. And to do that, we engage with students in different ways. We break down the barriers of the classroom. We don't look, although we have a campus, we look at the campus as a very embryonic space, a very safe space, because you need that safe space when you're learning. But you cannot confine yourself into that safe space, otherwise, you lose touch with what's happening outside. And if you don't engage with the world, what cinema will you make? So we go out, like you can see the kids there at the Arts and Crafts Village. We had a series called Caravan where we do a series of talks called Circle Time. This is a talk that Vichar gave from Technicolor. And we tried to instill this curiosity. The second day that the students were there, we got up at 4 o'clock, got into a bus at 5 in the morning, and went and, we went to that hill right on top, and we just sat and watched light for 3 hours. And then we talked about light. So we try to instill curiosity by different ways. Another way is through the general screenings that we do, which each of these frames are from different countries. That's Bicycle Thieves from Italy. That's Waltz with Bashir, which is an Israeli film. The right side is Stan Prakash's work, an underground filmmaker from America. The film I talked about, Sembin Usmain's film, is the film, the frame down there. That's Samsara. And of course, on the right side is Patar Panchali. So, trying to understand cultural context becomes an integral part of storytelling. If you cannot understand culture, if you cannot understand the anthropology or cultural anthropology, if you cannot, storytelling does not come from animation and a software. Storytelling comes from politics, from economics, from understanding society, from philosophy, So you have to go out of your mother discipline to understand your story, and then come back and find a cinematic expression. And yeah, we try to push the creativity sort of space. We start with, these are some of the theater sessions that we do with the theater artist Katie Abraham, who's based in Trivandrum. And why? Because an animator needs to know his or her body first to be able to understand how to draw a body. And Of course, it's also a lovely way to create a bond. It's a lovely way to open out. For the Unreal Lighting course, we actually started with the physical cinematography course to connect with what I talked about earlier, to try and get a tactile understanding of the particular aspect that one is studying, so that when one goes into the digital, it takes on another dimension. And of course, work readiness and life skills and transferable skills, which are is I would say today those are what are called the 21st century skills, and they are becoming as important as the core skills that you have, because the problems at the workspace are a lot of times coming from that space and not from the realm of the discipline that you're working. So this year we've just started with 4 upskilling courses. As you can see, there are 2 animation courses, one in Unreal and one in Maya. And we have a texturing and look dev course and an Unreal for lighting. We hope to...
Like, I think maybe we should, maybe one
another
minute we
one,
can talk.
just a minute.
Thank you.
And in the first year, we look at the school as offering these very short-term courses, and then subsequently, we hope to look at a larger canvas. So that's a thing. So I'll skip all that. Those are our course leads. Sorry to all 3 of them. And so we're looking at it in a very different way, and we believe in holistic learning. We believe in life skills, work readiness, things that are not being given that much attention. And yes, we are committed to creating a transdisciplinary community of lifelong learners who break our conditioned binaries of industry, academy, commercial, art, fiction, non-fiction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. So we really thank you for your session, and I personally has enjoyed the conversation as well, along with the audience. So if someone is interested to come and meet Mike, he would be available outside the room for any kind of question and answers. And they do have a stall in the expo area.c. So do visit them in case if you want to know more about these workshops. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shiva. Thank you for coming.